Legal expert and commentator Ulrich Roux joins us now for some insights on this. A very good evening to you, Mr. Roux, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Your impressions of what's been going on, and I'm not just talking about the latest incidents, but just the legal challenge or protestations by advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane and her legal team about the chairperson's handling of her case.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I think just to give the viewers some background once again, this is a Section 194 inquiry, which is a committee that is put together via Parliament. And the committee has been put together in order to determine whether Busisiwe Mkhwebane should be removed as the public protector as a result of either negligent or reckless handling of matters or incompetence in her position. The inquiry made it clear that they would be proceeding last week, Thursday, and as the public protector pointed out, she is entitled to have legal representation represent her during the inquiry, which she elected to do, and her legal representatives, led by Advocate Dali Mpofu, was present last week, Thursday. However, they sought a postponement of the inquiry, and once the postponement was not granted, they then walked out saying that they were not instructed to represent her pertaining to the merits of the inquiry and the actual leading of evidence, and that they were only instructed to seek a postponement of the inquiry. So once that postponement application was dismissed, they then walked out, and they've essentially left her high and dry in order for the inquiry to proceed. Now, she is entitled to legal representation. That is an election. But if she does not have legal representation, then the inquiry is well within its rights to proceed. Dates were set down on which this inquiry would proceed. And the inquiry is well within their rights in order to proceed with the matter, regardless of whether she's being legally represented or not. Her accusations that the chairperson of the inquiry is not acting in an objective manner and is acting in a biased manner towards her. She can raise those concerns now and she can place it on record. But should she be steadfast in her allegations that he is, in fact, not fulfilling his duties and his role adequately, then she should bring a proper application for him to be removed as the chairperson of the committee. So it has turned out into a bit of a shambles. Some media houses have compared it to a circus going on in this inquiry, and it is unfortunate. I think that the best strategy for the public protector would be to endure the inquiry, to properly evaluate the evidence that is being led during the inquiry, and to either cross-examine the witnesses herself or make use of a properly appointed legal team who have been instructed to represent her during the leading of evidence in this inquiry. And I think that the strategy that she is adopting now is not going to be in her best interest, and they will most likely find that she did act, in a negligent manner and in an incompetent manner in her position as the public protector.
And this is what I wanted to come to. The fact that she is obviously entitled to legal representation is one thing, but her criticism of the committee for wanting to carry on, despite the fact that her legal counsel chose not to participate in the hearings. They walked out because they are obviously unhappy with the manner in which it's conducting its work. Is that on the committee itself?
Well, they must act within the rules and the scope of the committee and the inquiry. And as far as I'm concerned, and in my opinion, they have done so thus far. They are full within their rights to proceed with the inquiry regardless of whether she has legal representation or not. She must bring a substantiated and a proper application, which she has, and it was dismissed. Accordingly, she must proceed. If she then obviously still persists in the allegations that the inquiry and the committee are not conducting themselves properly during those proceedings, then she is full within her rights to approach the High Court in an attempt to either halt the proceeding of the inquiry or to set aside any findings that it makes after having heard the evidence and after the inquiry having been conducted. Unfortunately for her, though, she has a very bad track record when it comes to bringing applications and bringing matters before the High Court and taking decisions by the High Court on appeal. She's been on the receiving end of numerous scathing judgments, adverse cost orders, punitive cost orders being made against her. And I do think that should she elect to approach the High Court in order to set aside the findings of this inquiry, it would most likely be the same result. So once again, I think that, her strategy of blaming the committee and blaming the inquiry and accusing them of not conducting a proper inquiry is not in her best interest. I think her best interest would be to properly and adequately prepare for the inquiry, properly evaluate the witnesses and the evidence, properly cross-examine witnesses, and then for the inquiry to make an objective and a proper finding after having heard all of the evidence led.
Now, we saw at some point the chairperson saying that Sianeho, which I believe is the Advocate Mkhwebane's legal team and consultants, is barred from leaving. Can the chairperson do that?
Well, they said that they are proceeding, and if the legal team leaves, then they will be proceeding in their absence. They cannot prevent them from leaving, in my opinion, but certainly there can be further sanctions imposed on them if there is a complaint laid with the Legal Practice Council and possible misconduct being found on their part. It is certainly not an ethical thing to do, to walk out of a sitting committee and just leave your client, to endure the inquiry on her own when she has appointed legal representation. But I don't think that is the focus of the committee. The committee must focus now on what transpired and how this inquiry is going to be led and how it is going to be concluded so that an adequate finding can be made.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Legal expert and commentator Ulrich Roux speaking to us on the ongoings concerning the committee looking into suspended public protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold